The night King Adrian disappeared from the palace, the entire kingdom believed he had been kidnapped. 300 soldiers searched the roads. Guards stopped travelers at the city gates. Horses were sent into the forests. The palace bells rang until midnight. But while the entire kingdom was searching for its king, King Adrian was sitting barefoot on the ground outside a poor woman's house, wearing torn clothes and pretending to be a helpless beggar. He had a dirty cloth wrapped around his shoulders. His hair was uncombed. His face was covered in dust. And in his hand was an old wooden bowl. He looked nothing like a king. That was exactly how he wanted it. He lowered his head as footsteps approached. A young woman appeared at the doorway. She was carrying a small lantern. She stopped when she saw him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she frowned. "Are you lost?" Adrian looked up slowly. His voice became weak. "I haven't eaten since yesterday." The woman stared at him. Then she looked at the empty road behind him. "You chose the wrong house." Adrian's heart sank. "Why?" "Because I am poor too." She turned around. Adrian almost smiled. This was not how he expected the conversation to go. He had spent weeks imagining this moment. He had imagined a kind woman seeing a helpless beggar and offering him food. Instead, she had practically told him to go away. He lowered his head again. "I understand." The woman paused. She looked back at him. Something about his voice bothered her. Not because it sounded weak. Because it sounded familiar. She studied his face. Adrian avoided her eyes. Finally, she sighed. "Wait here." She disappeared inside. Adrian smiled. His plan was working. A few moments later, she returned carrying a small plate. There was only one piece of roasted yam on it. She held it out. "Take it." Adrian stared at the food. "Is this all you have?" She gave him a look. "Do you want it or not?" He took it. "Thank you." She turned to go. Then Adrian said, "You are very kind." She stopped. Without turning around, she replied, "No, I'm not." He frowned. "You just gave me your food. I gave you half." Adrian looked at the plate. There was indeed another small piece remaining. "You kept some. I have children." He looked toward the house. "How many?" "3. And your husband?" Silence. The woman slowly turned around. "My husband is dead." Adrian's expression changed. "I'm sorry." She shrugged. "You don't have to be." Then she looked at him carefully. "Where are you from?" Adrian hesitated. "Everywhere." She almost laughed. "That's not a place. It is when you have nowhere to go." The woman stared at him. Then she opened the door. "You can sleep under the roof tonight." Adrian looked surprised. "Really? You can sleep in the shed?" His smile disappeared. "The shed? You are a beggar." "I know. And I am a poor widow." "I know. So don't expect a palace." Adrian almost laughed. If only she knew. He had slept in rooms larger than her entire house. He had eaten from golden plates. He had servants who would kneel whenever he entered a room. And tomorrow morning, hundreds of people would probably be searching for him. Yet somehow, he felt more comfortable standing outside this woman's tiny house than he had felt inside his own palace for months. "Thank you," he said. She nodded. "Come." Adrian followed her. He didn't notice the way she watched him as he walked. He didn't notice the slight change in her expression. And he certainly didn't notice that when she closed the door behind them, she whispered something under her breath. Something that made absolutely no sense. "Your Majesty." Adrian stopped. He turned. "What did you say?" The woman froze. For one terrible second, their eyes met. Then she smiled. "I said, you're very messy." Adrian stared at her. She walked away. He followed slowly. Something was wrong. Very wrong. because there was only one person in the entire kingdom who had ever called him Your Majesty in that exact tone. His mother. And his mother had been dead for 7 years. Her name was Mara. She lived at the edge of a small village called Belmere with her 3 children. The house was tiny. The roof leaked. The walls were cracked. There was hardly enough food for the family. Yet somehow, Mara kept everything together. The next morning, Adrian woke before sunrise. He expected to find Mara asleep. Instead, she was already outside, carrying a bucket of water. She looked at him. You slept well. He nodded. Very well. Good. She handed him the bucket. Then go fetch water. Adrian stared at it. Me. She pointed toward the well. You. He looked at the bucket. Then at her. You know, I am not accustomed to. He stopped himself. Mara raised an eyebrow. Not accustomed to what? Carrying water. Poor people carry water. I know. Then go. Adrian picked up the bucket. As he walked away, one of Mara's children burst out laughing. Mother. Mara turned. Yes. Your beggar walks like a soldier. Adrian stopped. Mara looked at him. He slowly turned around. The little boy continued laughing. He walks like the guards. Mara smiled. Maybe he used to be a guard. Adrian said nothing. The boy wasn't wrong. He had spent his entire life training soldiers. He had learned how to ride before he could properly write. He could recognize a military formation from a distance. He could tell which kingdom a soldier belonged to by the way he held his sword. And now, he was carrying a bucket. For the first time in years, he felt strangely happy. Until he returned. Mara took one look at the way he was holding the bucket. You've never carried water before. Adrian frowned. I have. When? Yesterday. She laughed. He realized she was teasing him. You are enjoying this. Very much. You know I could leave. Then leave. He looked at her. She shrugged. Adrian smiled. You are not afraid of me. Mara's expression changed. Should I be? He didn't answer. She walked closer. Who are you? The question came quietly. Adrian's smile disappeared. I told you. You told me you're a beggar. That's right. No. Mara looked directly into his eyes. That's what you want me to believe. Adrian's heart began beating faster. What makes you think otherwise? She looked at his hands. Then his posture. Then the expensive scar beneath his left eyebrow. You don't have a beggar's hands. Adrian looked down. His hands were rough from years of sword training. Mara continued. How does a beggar eat? You hold food like someone taught you table manners. Adrian said nothing. You don't speak like a beggar. I speak normally. No. She stepped closer. You speak like a man who is used to being obeyed. Adrian's eyes narrowed. For the first time since leaving the palace, he felt genuinely exposed. Mara turned away. Then she said, and there is something else. What? You don't know how to be afraid. Adrian stared at her. She looked back. Every poor man I have ever known is afraid of something. My children are afraid of hunger. Farmers are afraid of losing their crops. Old people are afraid of sickness. Women are afraid of losing their husbands. But you. She shook her head. You look at danger as if danger should be afraid of you. Adrian couldn't answer. Mara picked up the bucket. Then she smiled. Don't worry. I won't tell anyone. Adrian's blood ran cold. Tell anyone what? She walked away. Whatever it is you're hiding. That evening, Adrian sat outside the house. He couldn't stop thinking about her. She knew. Not everything. But enough. He had disguised himself carefully. He had removed his royal clothing. He had hidden his signet ring. He had even changed the way he walked. Yet somehow, this woman had seen through him in less than 2 days. He decided to test her. "Who do you think I am?" he asked. Mara continued cutting vegetables. "I don't know. You said you knew I was hiding something." "I know you're hiding something." "That's different." "Very." He smiled. "What if I told you I was a thief? I'd ask what you stole. What if I said I was a murderer? I'd ask whom you killed. What if I told you I was a king?" Her knife stopped. Only for a second. Then it continued cutting. Adrian watched her. "You don't believe me." "No." "Why?" "Because kings don't sleep in sheds." Adrian laughed. Mara looked at him. "Why are you laughing?" "Because you're right." She returned to her cooking. But Adrian noticed something. Her hands were trembling. Just slightly. And for the first time, he wondered. Who was Mara? Because she wasn't simply a poor widow. There was something about her. Something she was hiding. And Adrian had no idea that before the week was over, he would discover that Mara's secret was far more dangerous than his own. 3 days later, the sound of horses filled the village. Mara rushed outside. Adrian was repairing a broken chair. He looked toward the road. A group of royal soldiers was entering Belmere. His heart jumped. They had found him. He immediately stood. But then he saw the royal banner. The soldiers were carrying a large scroll. One of them shouted, "By order of the crown." Everyone gathered. Adrian stayed behind the house. He couldn't risk being recognized. The captain unrolled the parchment. "King Adrian has disappeared from the palace." The villagers gasped. "His Majesty was last seen 3 nights ago." Adrian lowered his head. The captain continued. "Anyone who provides information leading to the king's safe return will receive 500 gold coins." The villagers erupted in whispers. 500 gold coins could change a family's life. The captain raised his voice. "The king may be disguised." Everyone began looking at one another. Then the captain said something that made Adrian's blood run cold. "He may be dressed as a beggar." Silence. Slowly, several villagers turned toward Mara's house. Adrian remained hidden. Then he heard a voice behind him. "Mara, are you frightened?" He turned. She was standing there. Calm. Almost too calm. "Why would I be frightened?" She looked at the soldiers. Then back at him. "Because they are looking for you." Adrian froze. She walked closer. "Don't worry," he whispered. "How did you know?" Mara looked him directly in the eyes. "Because I was there." His face changed. "What?" "The night you left the palace." Adrian stared at her. "You were there." She nodded. "I saw you leave." "Who are you?" Mara said nothing. He grabbed her arm. "Who are you?" She looked down at his hand. "Let go." He did. Mara stepped closer and whispered, "I know exactly who you are, Adrian." His breath caught. She had just called him by his name. Not king. Not beggar. Adrian. And then she said the words that changed everything. "I've been waiting for you to find me for 11 years. Adrian stared at her. 11 years? Mara nodded. Then she reached beneath her dress and pulled out a small golden necklace. Adrian recognized it immediately. His mother's necklace. The one that had disappeared the night his father died. His face went pale. "Where did you get that?" Mara closed her hand around it. "From the woman who saved your life." Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. "My mother is dead." Mara looked at him. "I know." "Then who gave you that necklace?" She took a breath. And before she could answer, a soldier shouted from the front of the house. "Search this house." Mara's eyes widened. She grabbed Adrian's hand. "Run." "Where?" "Somewhere the king would never think to hide." "Where?" She pulled him toward a hidden door beneath the floor. Then she whispered, "The palace." Mora pulled the wooden door open. Beneath it was a narrow staircase leading underground. Adrian stared at her. "You have a tunnel beneath your house?" "Not a tunnel." She grabbed a lantern. "A passage." "Where does it lead?" "You'll see." They descended quickly. Above them, soldiers were tearing through the house. "Search everywhere," Adrian whispered. "Mora, what is happening?" She didn't answer. They walked through the dark passage for several minutes until they reached a stone wall. Mora pressed her hand against it. A hidden door opened. Adrian stepped through and froze. They were inside the royal palace. His palace. "What?" Mora put a finger to her lips. "Quiet." Adrian looked around. They were standing behind a large tapestry in an abandoned corridor. He stared at her. "How do you know this place?" "I told you. I've been waiting for you." "Waiting for me for 11 years?" She nodded. "Why?" Mora reached into her clothing and pulled out another object. A small royal seal. Adrian recognized it immediately. His father's seal. "Where did you get that?" "Your father gave it to me." Adrian shook his head. "My father died 11 years ago." "I know." "Then how?" Mora looked at him sadly. "Because I was there the night he died." Adrian's face hardened. "What are you saying?" "Your father wasn't killed by the rebels." He stared at her. "Everyone knows the rebels murdered him." That's the story the palace told. Then what really happened? Mora looked toward the corridor. Someone inside the palace betrayed him. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Who?" Before she could answer, footsteps echoed nearby. Mora grabbed his hand. "Not here." They slipped into an empty room. Adrian closed the door. "You're going to tell me everything." Mora nodded. "I will." She took a breath. 11 years ago, your father discovered that several powerful men were planning to overthrow him. "Who?" "The royal advisor." Adrian's eyes widened. "Lord Cashin." Mora nodded. "Your father planned to arrest him." "Then why didn't he?" "Because someone betrayed your father before he could." "Who?" Mora looked directly at him. "Your uncle." Adrian stepped backward. "My uncle died with my father." "No." Mora shook her head. "Your uncle survived." Adrian stared at her. "That's impossible. Everyone thinks he died." "Why would they lie?" "Because your uncle is alive." She paused. "And he has been sitting beside you at the Royal Council for 11 years. Adrian's blood ran cold. "My uncle." Mora nodded. "King Lucian." Adrian whispered. "He's the king's brother. And the man who wants your throne." Suddenly, the palace bells began ringing. Mora looked alarmed. "What is it?" "The king has returned." Adrian frowned. "What?" Mora shook her head. "That's impossible." A voice echoed through the palace. "King Adrian has been found." Adrian stared at Mora. "But I'm here." She looked at him. "Exactly." He suddenly understood. Someone had found a man wearing his clothes. Someone had announced his return. Someone wanted the kingdom to believe the real Adrian was back. But Adrian was standing right there. Mora whispered, "Your uncle knows you're alive." Adrian's face hardened. "Then we have to leave." "No." She shook her head. "We have to go to the throne room." "Why?" "Because the man sitting on your throne isn't your uncle." Adrian stared at her. "Then who is it?" Mora opened the door. "Come and see." The throne room was filled with nobles. Guards stood on both sides. And on the throne sat a man dressed in royal clothing. Adrian looked at him. His face went pale. It was him. Another Adrian. The man looked exactly like him. Same face. Same height. Same voice. The nobles were bowing. The king has returned. Adrian couldn't speak. Mara whispered, "Now you understand why I needed you alive." The false king stood. "My people," he announced, "I have returned." The crowd cheered. Adrian watched in horror. Then the false king turned. His eyes met Adrian's. For 1 second, the entire room seemed to freeze. The false king smiled. Not with surprise. With recognition. He knew. He had known Adrian would come. Then he said something only Adrian could hear. "Welcome home, brother." Adrian's heart stopped. "Brother." He looked at Mara. She was crying. "Adrian," she whispered. "You have a twin." Adrian turned toward her. "You knew." Mara nodded. "I knew." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because your father made me promise." "Why?" "Because your twin was taken the night you were born." Adrian stared at her. "My twin was kidnapped." Mara nodded. "He was supposed to be killed." "Who took him?" Mara looked toward the throne. "Your uncle." Adrian's fists clenched. "But why would he bring him back?" "Because your twin doesn't know the truth." She swallowed. "He believes he is the rightful king." Adrian looked at the man sitting on his throne. The man who had his face, his blood, his name, and possibly his entire kingdom. Then Mara whispered, "And there is one more thing you need to know." Adrian turned. "What?" Mara looked terrified. "Your twin isn't the one who killed your father." "Then who did?" She pointed toward the royal council, at the man standing quietly beside the throne. "Lord Cashin, the royal advisor." Mara whispered, "He killed your father. And now he's planning to kill you." Before Adrian could respond, the palace doors slammed shut. The guards drew their swords. Lord Cashin smiled. "Seize them." Mara grabbed Adrian's hand. "Run." Adrian pulled his sword. But there were too many guards. Then, from the throne, his twin stood. He raised his hand. "Stop." Everyone froze. The false king looked at Adrian. For the first time, his expression softened. "I don't know who you are," he said. "But I know one thing." He stepped down from the throne. "If you really are my brother." He looked at Cashin. "Then we have the same enemy." Cashin's smile disappeared. And Adrian finally understood. The battle for the kingdom had just begun. The guards surrounded Adrian and Mara. Lord Cashin stepped forward. "Kill them." But the man who looked exactly like Adrian raised his hand. "No." Cashin turned. "My king." "I said no." The false king walked toward Adrian. For the first time, the brothers stood face to face. Adrian studied him. "What's your name?" The man hesitated. "Alexander." Adrian's eyes filled with emotion. "You really are my brother." Alexander nodded. "I've always been told I was the only heir. And I was told you died." They both looked at Mara. She lowered her head. "I'm sorry." Adrian's voice became cold. "Tell us everything." Mara took a deep breath. "Your father had twin sons. When the kingdom was threatened, he ordered me to take one of you somewhere safe." "Why you?" "Because I was your mother's closest friend." Adrian stared at her. "You were?" Mara nodded. "Your mother wasn't only a queen. She was my sister." Silence filled the room. Adrian couldn't speak. Mara continued. "When Cashin discovered that your father had 2 heirs, he decided neither of you could be allowed to rule. He took Alexander." "He did. And you saved me." "Yes." Adrian looked at her. "Why did you hide me all these years?" "Because Cashin believed you were dead." She looked toward Alexander. "And he used your brother to control the throne." Alexander's face hardened. "So everything I've been told was a lie." "Yes." Cashin suddenly laughed. You believe this woman's story? Everyone turned. Cashin drew a dagger. She's lying. He pointed at Mora. She was the one who helped your father betray me. Adrian stepped forward. Enough. Cashin smiled. You think you're going to take your throne back? He snapped his fingers. Several guards drew their swords. But then something unexpected happened. Half the guards lowered their weapons. Alexander looked at them. Who gave you the order? Their captain stepped forward. Your father did. Alexander frowned. My father. The captain removed his helmet. I served your father 11 years ago. He looked at Adrian. And I've been waiting for the real heir to return. Cashin's face changed. The room erupted. The loyal guards turned on Cashin's men. Steel clashed against steel. Adrian fought beside Alexander. For the first time in their lives, the brothers fought together. And they were unstoppable. Cashin tried to escape. Mora blocked the door. You killed my sister. Cashin froze. Mora's eyes filled with tears. You took her sons. She stepped closer. And you destroyed our family. Cashin raised his dagger. Mora didn't move. But before he could strike, Adrian stepped between them. He disarmed Cashin. The royal guards seized him. The palace became silent. It was over. 1 month later, the kingdom celebrated the return of the true heirs. But Adrian refused to rule alone. He asked Alexander to remain beside him. The brothers rebuilt the kingdom together. And Mora? She tried to return to her little house in Belmere. Adrian wouldn't allow it. One evening, he found her packing. Where are you going? Home. You are home. She smiled. No, Adrian. The palace is your home. He stepped closer. You knew who I was from the moment I arrived at your door. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Mora looked at him. Because I wanted to know whether the man underneath the crown was worth loving. Adrian smiled. And she pretended to think. I'm still deciding. He laughed. Then he took her hand. I spent my entire life surrounded by people who bowed to me. He looked into her eyes. You were the only woman who told me to carry water. Mora laughed. You needed the exercise. I think I fell in love with you that day. She looked down. Even though you thought I was poor? Adrian shook his head. No. He smiled. Because you were poor. She looked confused. Because you had almost nothing, yet you still gave me half of everything you had. Mora's eyes filled with tears. Adrian gently held her face. I left the palace looking for someone who would love a beggar. He smiled. And I found a woman who loved a king before she even knew his name. Mora laughed through her tears. I knew your name. Adrian frowned. How? She smiled. Your mother told me. Before she died. Mora nodded. She told me that if you ever came looking for me, I should remind you of something. What? Mora leaned closer. She said. Never trust a woman who gives you her last piece of yam. Adrian burst out laughing. Mora laughed too. And for the first time in 11 years, the kingdom heard its king laugh like a young man instead of a ruler.